Hello, hello everyone. Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, along with Sarah.
Hello.
And we are ready to get painty with you today. I hope everybody can hear us okay. Please hop in the chat and let us know. So if we have any technical issues, which I'm fully expecting, it feels like a technical issue type of day.
Because we're getting inches of snow outside right now.
We are inches. The school called, the kids came home, but luckily Sarah's husband came and picked them up, and they're going to be using their the Wi-Fi over at their house and not at my house. Woo. So hopefully everything looks clear and crisp and you can hear us well. We're going to paint some dahlias today. We're going to use watercolors, and the watercolors that I have are the Turner watercolors. These are from our sponsor, jerrysartorama.com, and we're also going to use some watercolor pencils. Actually, they're Inktense pencils, and they're technically not watercolor. They're more of a water-soluble ink, but the neat thing about these is that after you sketch with them, if you put a wash of water over them, that pigment becomes permanent. So you could actually watercolor right over it and not lift any of the colors. So it's not really a something that we need for this. You can use whatever watercolor pencils you have, but it's kind of a cool option. And I swatched mine out a couple of years ago just so I could see the actual colors, because it's kind of deceiving when you see the tips of the pencils. They don't look as bright, and these colors are just wonderful. They are they're probably my favorite water soluble pencil. I don't want to say watercolor pencil because someone will like hop in the comments and be all trolly and be like, they're not a watercolor pencil, they're ink, lady. I don't want to deal with that. I can't deal with that today.
No, not today.
It's a miracle this is even just is broadcasting right now. So we're going to start off by sketching with our Inktense pencils. And if you have any questions while we're going along here, go ahead and just pop them in the chat. If you type them in all caps, then it'll make it easy for Sarah to see what's a question. Tell it apart from just the regular chat. I am kind of putting things, just putting some yellow pom-pommy, just circle-y shapes to begin with here. Remember, we can wash away any lines we don't need. And I'm kind of making like a diagonal composition here, and it just helps your eye travel through the picture. It's going to be pretty chaotic with everything we have going on in here with the bright colors and the textures and everything. I mean, there's a lot going on. It'd be great to do in an art journal if you just want to kind of be loose and express yourself. If you're very type A, this may not be the project for you, in which case feel free to hang out in the chat and Sarah's laughing at me, and chat amongst yourselves. If you like art, this is probably not the project for you. You like pleasing things, straight lines,
even numbers,
order. If you're all about chaos, though, this is your project. So I've got a bunch of circles here. The colors I'm using, I've got a green. It is felt green, which is kind of like an olivey, sappy green color. I have a cadmium orange, which is a kind of like a warm yellowy orange, and carmine pink, which is just kind of a soft pink. I'll show you the finished picture as we're working here. And also crimson red, which is just a kind of a pinky, deep pinky red. And I do have these products linked up. You can find them at our sponsor, Jerry's Artorama, or use what you have at home. Just approximate the same colors. It does not have to be the exact same colors. Now, on these flowers, you want to kind of get a little bit of the sketch in. So this one, we're actually going to put a little bit of like an unopened dahlia in the center, like the little bud, it hasn't fully opened. So I'm putting an oval, so it kind of looks like a donut. And then I'm just putting around some ovally leaves here, kind of pointed ovals, and make sure that they all come out from the center. I'm hoping people can hear us, right?
People can hear us.
Good.
People are chatting.
Good.
We get a lot of hellos.
Hello.
Benny Chavez says hello.
Hey, Benny.
Beverly Mossman's here.
Oh, great, Beverly.
JPC13 Art, who says that she is cleaning her fridge out while watching this.
Oh, well, geez, maybe I can.
For you.
Yeah, definitely. Good to have something done. I do that too. Like I'll watch live streams and I get a little pop in the chat and hang out a bit, and I'll do some chores. Makes it go by a lot faster.
Yeah, I put on a podcast because I have a little portable speaker. I'll throw on a podcast, listen to that while I do stuff around the house. It makes it go by quicker.
And this one right here, I'm not going to put that center area. The center will kind of have little lines going right towards the middle. I'm just going to put in the petals on this one. And it's really only important that we draw the details on a few of these. Because if you have everything detailed, it's going to be even more chaotic than normal.
Oh, Phelan Jackson's cleaning her room.
Well, there. Do we have any kids that are home on a snow day today?
Let's find out. Do we have any kids snow day today? Because our kids up here in Maine got sent home.
Yep.
I'm going to say since I woke up at about 8 o'clock, we've probably gotten a good 3 inches of snow.
Yeah, and it's slushy stuff. I was really surprised because it was warm. It wasn't even at freezing this morning when I got up, and it was all snowy. This guy up here is going to have a little
Lori Hill's a snow day up in Canada.
All right.
Her new car is in bed.
Her car is in bed?
No, her new car is in bed. That's her name. I probably said it wrong.
Oh, okay. I thought you said like her new car is in bed. I'm
no.
like, what's a car doing in bed? That's
Micah is doing math. Oh, Cindy Matthews is peeking in before she goes to AC Moore.
Oh, hey, Cindy, buy something good for us too. We'll be there in spirit.
Carrie Harris snuggled with her 2 dogs on the couch. Oh, cross pecans at 60 degrees with sun in Texas.
Oh, man.
Shelly Parchman is also doing math, but she's at work.
Just go around and sketching a few petals on some of these, not all of them. It'll just save us a little work down the road. So next Tuesday night, we're going to do a night live stream. It'll be 9:30 Tuesday night. Actually, Jason's gonna help me out.
Oh, he is. What are you doing Tuesday night?
We're doing Ask an Artist with Marty Owens and Cinnamon Cooney, the art Sherpa.
Cool. That's
yes.
awesome.
So between the 3 of us, we have quite a bit of art knowledge, and we're going to be dishing it out, dishing out the art knowledge.
Do your own thing, so it's different skills.
Yes, definitely. And like Marty does a lot of pencil and marker reviews. So if you have a question on pencils, markers, drawing media, he is the man to ask. Cinnamon is all about acrylic. She is a acrylic expert.
Fabulous.
Yep. And so she can help you with the different brands. Like if you're wondering if such and such a brand works well with another brand, you know, she's the one to ask. I pretty much use Turner or Liquitex, but she uses a lot more, so she can give you a lot more information. I'll be there for the watercolors. We'll just answer whatever, you know. And you'll get to hear my husband's lovely voice.
Yeah, well, he is on the radio professionally.
I know.
He will be much better at it than I will.
Oh, you're doing great. You do a great job. Yeah, well, I don't know if he'll be on camera or not, or if he'll just be sitting in the background. Oops, I think I broke my lead there.
Benny Chavez. Yay, my 3 favorite YouTubers together.
Awesome.
Kelly Parchman. It's like a YouTube dream team.
Aw, it's a patty. YouTube patty.
Tim's Woodworking. Are you using a reference picture?
Yes, it's linked in the video description. I have it taped to my wall in front of me, but yes, I have it was really pretty. I just really fell in love with the colors, and it was a picture going the portrait way, and so what I did was I just kind of arranged it differently so I could have it landscape. And there's actually a lot more flowers in there, so this would be pretty in any medium too. If you want to do acrylics, I think it would work really well in that too.
Susan Carson, what time Tuesday night? You said 9:30
Eastern time.
Eastern time.
Yep, I want to make sure the kids are in bed and won't be, you know, doing their homework online or doing anything online.
Popping in and out. Mom!
Yeah.
Maisie did this, Mom. Lila started it.
Yeah.
Mom, where's my mom?
Yeah.
Mom. Anime Junkie 10. Is the pencil scratchy because of the paper, or is the lead kind of hard?
It's the pencils are the lead is fairly hard, but they do release really well. It's probably because the microphone is like literally a foot away from the pencil tip, so you're probably just hearing a lot of abrasion because of that. I don't think you would notice it if you were using them. Although sometimes people say that like products that I love, that they've been bothered by the noise that they make, which I've never really noticed that, but it's funny.
Let's see. Carolee Carter. I know this has been asked before. I want to try watercolors. What kind of paper to begin with?
Well, let me show you this paper. It's kind of cool. This side is really smooth. And I'll show you all because I'm working on the smoother side. This side is rougher. I think you can see that if I'm holding it just right. The camera's trying to focus on it, but it's very textured on the back side. And this is a Canson watercolor paper, and I'm thinking it's Canson 100, but there are other papers that are rougher on one side and smoother on the other. And if you go to an art store, you can flip and look, or if you go online to Jerry's Artorama, you could probably find the Canson 100. Maybe it's Strathmore, this 100. This is a Canson paper. I wish I knew the name of it. But it's smooth on one side and rough on the other. And you can always phone Jerry's and ask them what paper they recommend because you want one side to be smooth and rough, and they will help you. They have actual artists working there, so they can help you out with that. I buy a lot of papers in bulk, and I've had a lot of them for a long time, and often I forget. Unless I take them right out of the wrapper, the big package they were mailed in, I forget what they were. I just kind of go by sight and feel for what I need for a project.
Micah Paul, what is your favorite watercolor brand? The one you're using?
I like the Turner a lot, but honestly, my favorite is M. Graham. And I kind of got hooked on them because when I was ready to buy some new watercolors, my budget was really tight, and my local art store had them for 40% off list. And so I tried them out, and I really love them, and they stay moist in your palette for a long time because they have honey in them. So that's another trick. If you've got lesser quality paint and they keep drying and cracking, you can add a little honey or glycerin to the paint, stir it in there into the wet paint, and then it'll stay moister for you longer. Okay, so now we're going to start with some paint, and I am using a number 8 round. This is a Mimic Kolinsky brush, which is a synthetic sable. You can use any number 8 round that you have. I would go with an 8 or a 10. I would start off pretty big because we're going to be working pretty loose. And I'm going to start with a little bit of this permanent yellow. It's kind of like a cad yellow medium. It's a little bit warmer than your lemon. And I'm going to start adding some color onto these yellow flowers.
Pamplan L, what's your favorite medium?
Watercolor.
And Michael Paul, he was double checking on the paper you said you were using today.
Yep.
You didn't remember, did you? Your paper?
No, I don't remember. One side is like a hot press and the other side's a cold press. So I would go with a hot press if you want the same results. I'm taking a little bit of that rose red and I am adding it to that permanent yellow to get myself some kind of like peachy color. If I used like a cadmium red, I'd get way too orange of a color. I just want this kind of peachy color here. I'm just kind of pushing the tip of my brush into the petal tips and letting the orange kind of blend into the yellow. We're going to do some different techniques on these flowers, so hopefully you learn quite a bit and just have some fun getting into some bright colors. I like to use bright colors this time of year.
Yes.
It's so gray.
So white and gray. Well, although this year hasn't been that bad.
Yeah, we had some nice grass. I was noticing the green grass yesterday. I walked and it was weird because it was foggy and the grass was green. It was like, oh, it was so springy.
I sat out, Julie and I both sat out and sunbeamed yesterday on the back deck. I got a camp chair out, had an adult beverage while I sat in the sun, and it was lovely.
Sounds great.
Beverly Mossman, after the show, how do we stay connected to you? Tried last time, but it did not work.
I've after the show is done, if you keep the chat open, then the page open, I think the chat will stay up for a little bit because sometimes people can chat later, I've noticed. But if you hop in the comments and leave comments, I try to get right on afterwards and answer any questions that come in. Using those same two colors, I'm just getting a little bit more of that pink and yellow right around that center area on this flower. So it can make the ball of the unopened petals stand out a little bit more.
Tika Carr, I have a coloring book, Enchanted Forest by Johanna Basford.
Yep.
I've been using Crayola super tip markers, but it seems that the paper is coated or smooth and it likes to rub off. Any advice?
I haven't used that. Gosh, I think did you get the girls that coloring book?
I don't know if I got that particular one, but I got them something similar.
Because they have one of the secret, there's like Secret Garden and Enchanted Garden that are by
I don't
Joanna
remember.
Basford.
Yeah, I don't remember which ones I got them.
My girls like to use the Zig Clean color, and maybe they're a little bit drier of a marker or something.
I also find I use, when I do coloring book, color a page, I like to use Sharpies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I use Sharpies and like my gel, my glitter gel, kind of use them in combination. I've had good luck because I can use the fine, like the fine tip and the regular tip Sharpies. I've had good luck with those. I'm going to say Crayola Super Tips are really made for kids, so they're made more for a more porous, plain type paper.
Oh, probably because coloring book pages are like the kids' color pages are so porous.
And I think some of the Super Tips now are washable, which is going to make them even less likely to
less likely
not super porous.
Yeah, I noticed that like if you're inking up a rubber stamp to stamp, if you've got the washable ones, they want to really bead up where you can get by with like the cheap 99-cent Crayolas that they have a back to school time. I'm just putting in dabs of the yellow and then that yellow pink mix. And now what we're going to do for this one is we're going to grab one of the pencils, and I'm going to see if this is going to give me enough. Yeah, I'm taking this Inktense pencil, and when I draw into the wet paint, it's releasing nice fine lines of color, kind of like how we would do the credit card technique, except the credit card technique wouldn't really show up too well on this yellow. So it just gives us another option there. So I got a little texture from that. And then I'm going to actually do some rounded petals with the carmine pink, or whatever pink you're using. Don't worry if you don't have the exact set that I'm using. I will say though, because when I was linking up the products, the regular retail on the full set of Inktense, the 72, is crazy. It's like $209.
Whoa!
Yeah, Jerry's has them for $109 for the set of 72. So, you know, just you really want to look around. You want, and they do have smaller sets. And honestly, I usually don't use more than a few on a piece, but I like having the big sets. I like having the options. But you certainly don't. You know, you certainly don't need it to create art. I'm making it a little bit darker over here at the edge where it's coming up against this other yellow flower, just to kind of push it behind. So I'm like kind of making a shadow in there. And I can even go in with my brush, just trying to keep my hand out of the way, so this might look a little awkward. Just trying to wet that a little bit, drag the color in so it blends a little bit. Because if you want to do anything to the Inktense and you've wet them, you need to do it now. Otherwise, your opportunity's over. It's permanent.
AOIX Nico, can you recommend the best brush to use for beginner and the most used sizes?
Well, a lot of that, if you're watercolor painting, like if you're a stamper, you're going to want different brushes than like if you're painting like we're doing here. I really like a number 8 or number 10 round, and this Mimic Kolinsky is nice. I will say though, for a beginner, it may hold a little too much water, and you may feel like your paints are too light or too runny. So you may want like an Aqualon, which is like and they're nice because they have a clear brush, so a clear handle. So if you accidentally leave them in the water overnight, then they're not going to the wood won't swell and split and crack and look awful, and then your ferrule won't get loose. So that's a really great brush for a beginner. And you know, I like these Mimics. I like the Princeton Neptune, but if you're a beginner, you may not like how much water they hold because it can be difficult to control, or you may end up just your paint just looks so light because you can't seem to get that concentration of color that you want. So Royal Aqualon's a great choice for a beginner. I like a nylon synthetic brush just because they hold a nice point, and they're easy to control. I would probably go with like a number 8 or number 10 round, a number 5 or 6 round, and a 1-inch flat and a 1/2-inch flat.
Benny Chavez, is there a reason you decided to paint the flowers first and not the background?
Well, I kind of wanted to kind of break out of my comfort zone and do a looser painting, so that's one of the reasons. Also because I wasn't working with a pattern, I didn't draw it out ahead of time, so I wasn't sure exactly where everything was going to end up, so I didn't want to have to negatively paint around, but I wasn't sure was going to be there. I knew I would want some of the petals to hang over, and I didn't want to be restricted by a background that was dark. And I knew I wanted in between the flowers to be kind of dark like foliage. So like a bunch of flowers just kind of crammed together on a in a display, like a florist display. And I'm adding a little bit of this rose red to the edges and letting it seep into the area I just wet.
Lori Hill, have you ever used Doc Martens Hydrus watercolors?
I haven't, but several people have asked me about those. Maybe I ought to give them a whirl.
Abigail Vanderploom, how do I make my watercolor paper smaller to the size I need now? Tearing or cutting?
You can do either. I like to cut because like this is probably an 1/8 of a sheet here, and I like having that rough edge from tearing, so I can just mount that on like a colored mat board and then mat around it and have that cool reveal. That I like that decal edge, but it's completely personal preference. I just added a little bit of yellow in the highlight there to brighten it up. It's hard to see because it's wet and shiny right now, but you'll notice it more as it dries.
Rita DeCook, I saw a video earlier about making your own watercolors using cornstarch, baking soda, Caro syrup, etc. Have you ever tried making your own?
No, I haven't. That would be a good option for like children if you're worried about the toxicity of the paint. Those colors would fade. They wouldn't be permanent, but if you just want something to play with, I don't think they would act like they might act like some of the cheaper kids colors just because the pigment's not going to be very strong if you're using like food coloring. But if you're curious and you've got kids, I probably wouldn't bother doing it unless I had kids to use it, because I think it would be a little disappointing as far as like an adult supply. I'm going to do that same technique we did with yellow here with this carmine pink, and I'm just going to draw little petals starting at the center, coming out. Don't be as detailed with these ones further away up at the top of the paper.
Sar Ahmed, Lindsay, you didn't pre-wet your paper today?
No, we're working on dry paper. We're out of the box, people.
We are out of the comfort zone.
We're out of the comfort zone. It's snowing. Who knows what the bandwidth is going to be?
Out of school early.
Yeah.
Christina Jones, what watercolor paper is the best for beginners? Love you guys.
I like to recommend. My favorite is Arches, but it's a little expensive and it's very absorbent, and sometimes beginners can't get their paint to move on it very well. So for beginners, I recommend Strathmore 400 series, and you can find that at most craft stores if you don't want to order online. I also like the Canson Montville, and sometimes craft stores have it, but you usually have to order that online. They're both well-sized, so you can lift up mistakes, and that's kind of something I think a beginner ought to have, is something that is kind of reworkable, and it's a reliable paper. You're going to get the same quality every time you buy it. It's not like one batch is going to be good, one batch is going to be weird. So those two are my picks, and they're not crazy expensive. I like to buy those in the blocks online, and they're, if you can get a small block of paper for under $10, and generally blocks are really expensive. You probably won't find the blocks in your craft store because they're more of a specialty thing, and a lot of people don't really know what to use them for. But they're a really great option. So that's Canson Montville and Strathmore 400 series. The Strathmore in the yellow with the yellow paper, yellow cover isn't as good. The texture of it isn't as lovely, and it doesn't perform as well. It buckles a lot more. It's definitely meant more for children.
Crafty Life, are you using hot or cold press paper?
This is the smooth side of a paper that I don't remember what it is. So this would be more similar to hot press. But the Canson Montville, I will tell you, their cold press is much more like a hot press. It's smoother than like a Strathmore.
Anime Junkie 10, would you say making your own custom palette is worth the investment, or should one wait until they're more advanced and familiar with watercolor? Well,
when I started painting in watercolor, I was 7, and my teacher had me make a palette like this. So I got a set of, I think it was Marie's paints. It was the Chinese watercolors. And I put it out in a palette like this, and I used that. I mean, it took me years to use up that paint. And it worked great. I would just add more. But the nice thing I liked about it was that my art teacher would only let me use watercolor for like as long as I worked with her. So if I wanted to do something that was more of an acrylic technique, I would use I would use my paints right out of the tube, which isn't the best use of them, but if you don't have very many supplies, doing gouache techniques like that so you can emulate acrylics is a great way to get a little bit more use out of your supplies. And plus, you know, I totally encourage anyone to experiment like that. So for that reason, I like that. I like having the big mixing area, but if you're only, if you don't have room for it, or you want something that's a little more portable, then getting something that's already set up in a small palette, like the Cotman travel set, is really ideal. I mean, that's what I teach with my classes, because I was able to get a bunch of them fairly inexpensively, and then, you know, I know everybody has the same paint, so it's completely up to you. I think it's, you know, whether you want a big mixing area or not is the biggest reason. So there, I just used my credit card scraper just to gouge in a few petal marks, and I'm just going to leave that there. So I'm making some like really undetailed. I'm making some much more detailed. You just kind of want everyone to be a little bit different, so there's a little bit of diversity in your picture.
JPC13 Art, do you know of any alternatives for Kopecks? I want to get into markers and I don't have a lot of money.
Yes, there's lots of wonderful alternatives for Kopecks, and I will be doing a comparison of different alcohol markers, because there are so many. And the thing that I have found is that they all play really nice together. The big thing that makes Kopecks so popular is the quality of their nibs, I think, and the fact that they're refillable. The thing that makes them so expensive is that they're very popular, so they can pretty much charge what they want for them. And I know that sounds very pessimistic, but before they became so popular, I mean, they were expensive, but I mean, they're way more expensive now, and I think that's due to their popularity. I'm taking that red and yellow that I've mixed, and I'm gonna add a little touch of the blue to it to tone it down, ultramarine blue to tone it down. So, you know, pro markers, Prismacolor markers. I'm going to be trying the new Jerry's Concept markers to see how they stack up. It comes down to whether you want that like brush nib or not. If you want a brush nib, you're a little more limited. And I know sometimes you can get brush nibs for certain markers, but once you buy the nibs and add them to your markers, you're no better. It's not even a savings. So yeah, I mean, I like Prismacolor. Spectrum Noir are probably the best bargain out there.
I want to get some of those.
I like the new ones. The only downside to the new ones is their caps are difficult to remove, but you can get the tips for those. I haven't tried the tips. I have a lot of the old ones because I got a great deal on them, but they dry out. You have to keep adding alcohol to them.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, I was like, oh, $19 for 36 markers or whatever it was. I'm like, score. And then I was like, oh, got to keep adding alcohol to some of them because they just dry out. Their caps weren't airtight, so they redesigned them. They probably went to market a little too quickly with those.
Esther Bella, I am a beginner in watercoloring. Do you recommend doing this? Looks like so much fun.
Yes.
It's footloose and fancy free. So.
It is. I mean, do it in your art journal. If you're thinking, I don't know if I want to waste a piece of paper on that, you know, do it in your journal.
Beverly Mossman is asking how you're feeling with the cold.
Oh, I am good. I probably sound a little stuffy, but
your throat doesn't sound so scratchy today.
Yeah, I'm good. I didn't really have I pretty much, if I feel like I'm coming down with something, I just go to bed early and drink a lot of tea and just try to, you know, take it easy, rest when I can, and kind of approach it that way. So I'm usually not down for too long.
Crafty Life, what size of brushes should I get first?
For watercolor, I recommend like a number 8 or 10 round, a number 5 or 6 round, a 1/2 inch flat, and a 1 inch flat.
Nikki Browning, I always have the hardest time with my paper drying before I am done, even when I wet it multiple times. The paper I practice on is kind of old. Does the age of the paper affect how it absorbs water? Well,
it can, the sizing can get kind of less effective, but I really haven't noticed that. It could be you stored it someplace really dry. Maybe you should just mist it a few times. Or it could be, you know, if it's this time of year and your heat's on and it's, you know, the air's dry. I'm going to take some of that rose red and ultramarine blue and make up a purple. Now, the nice thing about working from dry paint, like I've let my paint dry, I can actually dip in with a dirty brush and I can just wipe it off. It's not going to really contaminate the colors there when I'm mixing. If you're working right from the tube, it would contaminate. I'm taking some of this and adding it next to that yellow one to kind of push back that darker red that I've just wet.
Jane Kirkwood, what paint would be best to paint on a slate tile?
Acrylics or oils.
JPC13 Art, what camera do you use for your videos?
For my typical videos, I use a Samsung H90, F90, H90. It's I bought it because it's the only camcorder I saw that had a pause feature. So like if I'm doing my I'm recording and I need to go and grab something else, rather than stop the camera and make a new file, I can just pause it, go get it, and come back, and it makes editing a lot easier when I'm done. For my live streams, I'm using a Logitech. I'm not sure. I'm looking for the box. I'm not sure what the model is. I had my husband pick it out. I'm not very technical savvy, so when I need something, I usually have my husband research it. But I did research that one on the pausing feature because I'm like, that saves me time. So.
Yeah.
I'll research the features that'll let me be more lazy.
Tika Carr, Zig markers are expensive. Does anyone know if Artist Loft, which is sold at Michael's, is a good substitution?
I don't know. I haven't used any of the Artist Loft products.
Okay. C, what size paper are you using?
It's about, let's say, I've got my grid here. Let me measure it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 7 by 11. It's 1/8 of a sheet of watercolor paper. Watercolor paper comes in 20 by 30 inch sheets if you order full sheet papers. It's usually more economical to do it that way if you have room to store it. And then I just tear it down to size. I keep eight sheets in my travel bag, so that's why I happen to have that color, that size there.
Anja Saranac, what is the color, the pink red flower where you use the orange highlight? What is that color?
Orange highlight over here. That is the I used some rose red paint and I used a carmine pink Inktense pencil, so it's got both of those colors mingling around in there.
Pamplan L, for how long have you been watercoloring?
Since I was 7. It's a long time.
Well,
not going to say how long.
We'll say 20 years. 27. So that's 20 years, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Great. That makes me even younger than I am. Yay. Gray Boy, do you know Lucas watercolors quality?
The only time I've used Lucas, I got a little, it was kind of like I think a free gift with purchase, or maybe it was just like a super deal I ordered once. But I think it was a student grade. I think they have a couple different grades. I thought that the paint that I got was kind of chalky, but I also think it was a student grade. I think they have 2 grades. So I really can't recommend or say not to try it, because I think I was using a student grade product and it was a long time ago. So let's say no.
Micah Paul, does Jerry's Artorama have the best deals that you know of?
Usually.
I got a bunch of things from them a couple of months ago, and it was really good.
Yeah, usually they are, and they often have coupons, and they have a lot of different coupons. So like if you join their mailing list, they have one that's like 25% off everything, and it takes it off the, at least when I used it, the first time I used it, it took it off the sale prices too.
Ooh,
so I mean,
nice. They don't always
do
that.
My, yeah, so that like, that thing that was $200 that you paid that was on sale for $100, then you get 25% off. I mean, it's crazy. So I found them to have the best prices. But you could always check around. Like if you're online, it's easy to do.
Anja Saranac, what videos are you planning for the future? Anything big coming up?
Oh, wow. Let's see. I do have quite a few videos planned. I have a project. It's actually 4 projects with pressed flowers coming up probably in a couple of days. I've got some more art marketing vlogs already filmed. They'll just probably come out once a week until they're all out. Let's see. Oh, I've got some, I've got a big abstract wall art, which is actually comprised of a few canvases. That's going to be coming up soon.
We have the thing you're going to Colorado in March.
Yep, but I can't really talk about that too much because
Right.
that's something that's not going to be.
But we can keep an eye out for that.
Yep.
JPC 13 Art, can you refill the Spectrum Noir markers?
Yes. Yep, they have refills available. And I think their refill bottles they're not too pricey. I think they're about $5 a bottle versus $8 of Kopecks. So there's another savings.
Andrew Kavanaugh, do you think this is a good watercolor for beginners? Which we said earlier is, because it's fancy free.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to ignore that phone call. I'm sure it's a kid calling for a kid.
Probably. They'll be back shortly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Permanent rose. Is there some way we can get the Inktense to be permanent on cloth?
Inktense is permanent on cloth.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I've done an apron with it, and just to be safe, and they say that you're fine just to use it on cloth, but I didn't quite trust it. And so what I did was I just used some Textile Medium, and pretty much any acrylic paint company would have it. I used the Delta Ceramcoat brand because it's pretty affordable, and you can get it pretty much anywhere.
Any paint supply.
You can get it at any store. I mean, I think like even your like Walmart and even would have it. Like if you just wanted to run out and grab a bottle. But yeah, what I did was I spritzed my fabric with water, and then I sketched on it with the Inktense, and then colored it in, and then I used water and the Textile Medium, kind of mixed 1 to 1 so it would flow, and I just kind of painted over, and I really was happy with the results. Oops, I want the other darker pink that is right here. I'm going to use the crimson to draw my petals here on this front one that's kind of nestled behind everything.
Kmore 919. Hi, Lindsay and Sarah. I'm in a handmade business. What can one consider the business to be a success? Can you make a living from it?
I really think you need to do something that's scalable if you're going to be doing handmade. And that's not what a lot of people like to hear because everyone wants to make every single thing one of a kind and by hand.
Right.
That's where you get into the trouble. The one of a kind is hard because you need to sell things at a much higher price, and you need to have a really devoted fan base, and you can get that, but it's not easy, and it's not as common as you might think. Like when you see a lot of these Etsy shops, I mean, to make a successful Etsy shop, they've got to sell a lot, and it might even look like they are doing one of a kind, but they're doing a lot of them. They're probably hiring people to replicate their designs. So I think if you design something that was popular and you could hire people to make it, then you could do very well. But I think if you're making everything by the kind or one of a kind, or even worse, custom order, you're gonna have a hard time to make an income that's above the poverty line. And I know that doesn't sound very nice, but I honestly think you've got to have something that's scalable. So if you're if you're a quilter and you make a quilt, and a quilt should sell for a couple $100 at least.
Yes.
But it's very hard to find somebody who's willing to pay a couple $100 for a blanket, right? So what you do,
I could do that at home.
Exactly. So what you do is you sell the pattern. That's scalable. You can sell that pattern 1,000 times, whereas you might struggle to find someone to buy the quilt. So I think that's what a lot of savvy handmade businesses are doing, is they're designing that beautiful one-of-a-kind thing, but they're making it scalable by selling the pattern. And quilters do fantastic with their patterns if they've got something unique. And of course, you have to worry about, theft of, people just photocopying the pattern for friends. But
people are jerks like that.
But, at least instead of selling one quilt, you've got some more money coming in, and that money can keep coming in forever and ever. And the other thing that a lot of handmade businesses do is they'll do like a class, and they'll teach people how to make their stuff, which people may think, well, why would I teach people and they won't buy it? But I have found that people will pay more for me to teach them how to paint than they will for a painting.
Michelle Shearer, question. My watercolor paintings dry looking like I used thick paste, not watercolor. am I doing something wrong, or is it the quality of my paints?
Well, let's see. If they're drying like that and they don't look like that when they're wet, I'm thinking maybe your paper has a lot of sizing in it. If you switch to like a cotton paper, what kind of paint are you using?
Let's see. I'm a little behind in the chat, so I'll keep going down.
Okay.
Tika Carr on Joanna Bassford's site, she recommends using Statler's Ergo Soft range. Anyone heard of those?
Is that a pencil or a marker?
She doesn't say.
Because Statler, I think, does both. I know they do some watercolor pencils.
Yes, I have some of their markers because they make super fine tip markers.
Yes.
Which are really great when you're stamping because you can really get in with those details.
Yeah.
I splurged and bought myself a set. Don't tell John I hid him in the craft room. He doesn't know.
Our men never go into the craft room. They don't dare. It's scary in there.
Yeah. John always jokes. He's like, it's like one of those, you know, where you have the pictures with all the stuff in it and you have to find. It's like every time I look in there, there's something new that I've never seen before or noticed. I'm like, well, we're going to keep it that way.
Oh, well, I had to go downstairs for something yesterday. Oh, and I was working down there. It wasn't too cold. And I'm finding teacup after teacup. It's like, this could be one of those find the hidden picture things. I'd take a picture of this and find how many teacups you can find in here.
Teacups?
Oh, man.
Let's see. Abigail Vanderploom. Can I do this painting in watercolor instead of Inktense?
I'm using both. Yes, absolutely. I'm using the Inktense to kind of draw in some details, but you could do that with a fine brush after, or you could scratch them in with if it's a darker color, scratch them in with a piece of cut up credit card. This should really help you. My goal for this, I always have a goal for a picture. What do I want to, teach? I want this to be very loose, uplifting, just enjoy the color, experience the joy of painting. Great.
And really, you could do those in any color.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Because these flowers, for Pete's sake, they just left my head. Dahlias come in every color you can think of.
Yeah, and I feel like I overworked the other one a little bit, so I'm going to try to keep this one a little bit less overworked. But I like to do the live show, the painting for the live show beforehand, just to make sure that it's going to work out, or if there's stuff I want to change, or if I run into problems or obstacles, I can fix that before I'm telling you guys what to do. Whereas it's a recorded video, I can always edit it if I mess it up.
Let's see. Bakey. Lindsay, would you do a live oil painting, please?
Oh, that would be fun. I would think I'd have to design something that's going to be that I could get done in like an hour or so. That with colors that will show up good on camera. I think that was part of last week's problem too, is that the colors that we used are so muted. They're very earthy colors. I think they were kind of difficult to make out, and I think we had some internet bandwidth issues too.
Yeah.
You can go in and add little dark areas around the centers on any of the flowers. Just try to keep the same colors in mind, like these darker colors. I'm using that mixed purple. And you can also add little dabs under some of the petals to make them kind of three-dimensional a little bit.
Let's see. Pamplan L, do you still have your earliest paintings?
I don't. My mom might. I don't know.
I don't. Andrew Kavanaugh, what is the best way to keep detail in watercolor?
Probably masking, like using like masking fluid. I usually just kind of wait to bring out those small brushes until the end. Like I'm doing most of this with a number 8 round. So if you kind of wait to the end to get those details in, I think it helps. Also, I think it's helpful to kind of start by putting in, like after you've kind of got your sketch in and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, get your dark values in, get your shadows in. A lot of people do light to dark with watercolor, but I think if you get those dark values in right off the bat, you're less timid as you go. And if there's any problems with your composition and your lighting, you're going to kind of be able to nip that in the bud right off the bat.
Archia French. Have you thought about doing viewers submissions? People can post to the Frugal Crafter,
the Facebook page. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So
yeah.
That is a way to submit so you can share your work with people.
Yeah, that's probably the best way. I kind of hesitate to do any art critiques because I really don't think that's my place. I think, I mean, I'll leave comments and stuff when you post stuff to the Frugal Crafter page, but I don't think I'm going to get into the, doing the critiques on air, just because I think that it might also, people will get disappointed if I can't get to their painting, and I don't, if you're talking to somebody one-on-one, you can make sure they're understanding what you mean, but if it's, I don't know, I'd be afraid of offending somebody, or maybe turning somebody
it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Plus you're kind of busy already.
Yeah.
I'm
struggling to get what I get done for the channel.
Let's see. Hairberry. What are good quality gouache brands?
I don't have any good quality gouache brands, but Winsor Newton Designer's Gouache would be good. M. Graham has a gouache line. Pretty much, probably any reputable company would have a good brand of gouache. I've used the Reeves, and I like it. It's not like a really high. It's a student grade, and I've been very happy with anything I've done with it. But it's certainly not. And I've never really used artist grade gouache, so I really couldn't tell you. I'm taking I want this blue. I'm taking some Prussian blue, phthalo blue, sap green, and that same yellow we're using, and putting them together here on my palette so that I can kind of make some different lively greens and fill in some of the area. And I don't think I'm going to go as dark as I did on the first picture, because I thought it was a little too heavy. Honestly, this looks kind of like a gouache. I ended up going back in with watercolor crayon, or white watercolor crayon, because it was just too heavy. Everything felt really heavy. So I'm going to try to avoid that a bit, but I still kind of like the loose bits of background here with some purples and blues and greens. So I'm going to try to take what I liked about this picture and apply it to this one, so I like this picture better than the first one.
Let's see. Tim's Woodworking. Are you going to VidCon in June?
No, I've never been to VidCon. I would honestly probably go to CHA before I go to VidCon, which is the Crafted Hobby Association. I'm not so great about crowds. Like the Heirloom Stamp Show we go to, that's about as crowded as I want to get.
Stamp show.
Stamp show. We're gonna get you. We're gonna have to figure out how to get you there.
I know.
Yes, our big shindig, our big like ladies weekend.
Where is the police box when I need it? The TARDIS. Seriously. Like, hello, Doctor Who, I could use you.
I know. I can't believe we have not, totally conquered the whole time travel, place travel, teleporting by now.
They just hide it.
They must have the technology. The government must. Can you imagine? That would be so great. You just beam me up. Beam me over there. I don't have to deal with lines and airports and
AOIX Nico, what usually do you take in your traveler art bag if you want to draw outside?
Oh, I did a little video on what I keep in my travel bag. It's on my channel. I posted it last summer. If you just go to my channel, there's like a little magnifying glass, or if you go to my blog, it's easier to search on my blog. Just search travel art bag, and you'll see. I usually do a different one every summer. But I like to have I have a small set of watercolor crayons. I have watercolor paper, this size watercolor paper, usually a couple rolls of washi tape. I might throw some stencils in there, because my girls will usually create too, and watercolor pencils. Just a lot of times they're the oddballs, the odds and ends of things that aren't my first-rate supplies, and I don't care if I drop in a pond out of a canoe, because that's known to happen.
I would totally do.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. My travel watercolor palette was underwater at one point today. Not today. Today that'd be difficult. It's icy, but at vacation. I'm wetting a little section at a time and dripping in those colors I told you. The Prussian blue, the sap green. I might even add a little bit of that mixed purple in parts. Just letting them blend around and do their thing.
Christina, I'm going to say her last name wrong. Bo. It's got a little mark above the O, so I'm not sure how to say that right.
Oh.
I apologize for the poor pronunciation. My gesso I once bought is now parted into liquidy stuff and almost paste-like stuff. Is there a way to use this as it won't mix into a smooth gesso?
Is it if it's a fairly small container, I would somebody made what they use. They use a reciprocating saw and I think a pill bottle, and they actually made a paint shaker.
Oh, cool.
If it's pasty and not chunky, you should be able to get it to mix up. You might need to like pour it into a big like Tupperware that you're not going to use again, big like, you know, tray, and use a palette knife or spatula and really work it together. If it's pasty, that should happen. If it's been frozen though and it's chunky, you've got to toss it.
Yeah, it's lost.
But I mean, I've had a gallon of gesso I have been working on since like, it seems like the late 90s. I don't know. It's probably since the late 90s. It was before I had kids. I used to stretch my own canvases. And it's fine. I've just got to, you know, it does separate and I have to stir it up before I use it. But, you know, it hasn't frozen, so it's still fine.
Let's see. Angel Girl. I want to get into working with markers. What's a good place to start and what sort of supplies do I need?
It would depend on what kind of marker art she likes. If it's like kind of like the anime or the Copic work that a lot of people are really into, I would recommend, my recommendation if you're going to get into markers is that you buy a couple open stock, meaning that just means individually. Buy some Prismacolor, buy a couple Pro markers, buy a couple Kopecks. I would get Kopecks in the colors you know you're going to use a lot, like maybe skin tones or, you know, your favorite colors, the colors that you'll probably end up using a lot because you can refill those. But, you know, there's some colors you're just not going to use that much, so getting the Copic really wouldn't be that much of an advantage. And then try using them and see, you know, because they'll get them in different colors. They're all going to work well together, and see what you like better, because some markers are bigger and harder to hold. You might not like that. Some are smaller, some are oval, some are round. They all have different characteristics. And what is your favorite marker might not be my favorite marker or anybody else's. So you want to make sure you get what's going to work best for you. And the best way to do it is to buy a few individually. Then after you've tried them out, you may find it's more economical to buy a set, and then you can go and buy a set. And that way it'll avoid you getting too many duplicates, and because a lot of markers are refillable. And that way you can build a good collection, still get to try the different ones, and end up with a good assortment. I think once you start, excuse me, once you start coloring and drawing with markers, you're gonna realize there's some colors you wish you had more of, like you might need more pinks or you might need more blues, and there's some colors that you're not using, like you may never pick up a purple. So it's better to kind of, I think, collect a little slowly and learn what you really like before you go whole hog into the marker thing.
Crystal Kokoro, what are the best watercolors that are rich in pigment and high quality? Also, what paper is good for watercolors? My 300 GSM paper sometimes seems to hold color longer.
Well, 300 GSM, that's 140 pounds. That's what I'm using here. And that's usually what I use. I usually don't splurge for the 300 pound because it's quite a bit more expensive. And I think I would only bother with that if I was going to spend a lot of time on one single painting. I like Arches paper. That's my favorite, but there are other good brands that are a little more economical. I'm just going to keep doing the same method in between all these flowers. For paints, I like M. Graham probably the most out of everything, but these Turner ones are good if you're on a budget. There's a lot of great brands out there, and you're going to get a different answer from whatever artist you ask.
JPC 13 Art, can you do an oil painting of a flamingo or a swan?
Oh, maybe a swan. They're going to be popular. They're a trend this year.
Oh, are they?
Yep.
I'm not up on the trends.
Yeah, I know swan. Somebody else just posted a flamingo in the Creative Arts collaboration. So I would search flamingo. Yeah, I think you'd find that one probably.
Yeah.
Search what's it called? The color of the year in flamingo. Somebody did one in the Pantone colors of the year. Somebody might know who did. If somebody knows who did that in chat and wants to help out,
yeah, please
tell them where they can find that.
Be a minute. I'm a little behind on the chat. We've got a lot of great chatting and questions going on. Let's see. Harnoop Carr, do you doodle or draw Zentangles?
I honestly couldn't really get into it. I've tried it, and I've done a couple like little tutorials with it, and it was fun. But it's just something, for some reason, it's not something that I do very much. I think it's because I'm not a very detail-oriented person. I would rather, work on something larger with lots of color than to fuss around with something smaller. It's like I don't use the coloring books very much. They're fun when I pick them up and use them, but I'm much more likely to want to do something on a blank page. But for some reason, I guess I would be like, I would draw the basic shape, then I would paint it. I wouldn't doodle within the basic shape so much. It's just a personality thing. I think it's cool. I think it's cool when I see other people do it.
Lily XSX, how many hours do you spend crafting, painting, etc. a week?
It's hard to say because I feel like I spend 40 hours a week doing that, but you know, I'm also doing videos and editing and stuff. But I would say actual hands-on craft work is probably about 30 hours a week. And then probably another,
fair.
Yeah, then probably about another 30 hours editing, promoting all the business end of the professional YouTube life.
The famous YouTuber, the frugal crafter. Rodrigo Paez, someone know where I can find information about toxicity of watercolor paints before buying?
Yes, you should be able to find product charts. I actually right on the buy page at Jerry's, I think you can click and get the PDF download of the chemicals. But if you can't, go to the manufacturer's website and they will have the downloads that you can print it out. And I will tell you that a lot of things sound a lot scarier than they are because different countries have different regulations. Our country isn't too regulated, but the state of California is. And you'll see a lot of warnings that are like, you know, will cause cancer, or chemical known to cause cancer in the state of California. But you can also avoid certain colors and certain pigments because it's more like you'll find certain pigments across different brands. They'll be the same pigment, so they're going to have the same warnings. But painting, like usually they'll have like a red dot next to them, or a CL, which is cautionary label. Anytime that you see these products for sale, it's usually like a dot or something next to the listing online or in a catalog that will notify you. I think they probably have to notify per law, so I think it would be kind of difficult to purchase the dangerous pigments by mistake. Generally, and the price tag's a real good indication, because if it's, you know, if you're paying $20 for a tiny little tube of something, chances are it's got some sort of chemical in there that, if used improperly, will cause something horrible. Yeah. But basically, I mean, if you use like watercolors in the method they're intended, you're not going to get sick or injured from them. It's just, you know, you're drinking a cup of tea and you dip your brush in it. You don't want to drink that tea anymore. You want to throw the tea away. So just use some common sense. Use the paints as they're not, it's not makeup. Don't paint your face with this. You know, it's watercolor paint.
Let's see. Joyce Whitebread. Lindsay, will you be doing a St. Patrick's Day video?
I think I'll have to do something. So I've had a couple people request. I'm just trying to think what I want to do for it.
Heather Dewey Pettit.
Any suggestions? Please leave your St. Patrick's Day suggestions in chat.
She says St. Patrick's Day card would be great. Ooh, you could do a shaker card like you did for the Valentine's.
Oh, yes.
That card is adorable.
Yes.
I had fun watching that.
Thank you. I just got a new batch of stamps in the mail too. I'll have to show you.
Oh yeah.
Afterwards.
Well, I was looking at the Art Deco, the Valentine's one,
yep.
The sheet. And I was like, ooh. And I also want to go get the little stampers. You did the seams.
Oh, the rubber stamp tapestry is so fun. Those are so fun. I actually took those to the library for my kids class, and like usually the kids, like there's usually a lesson portion, then they just can free draw, and they were mesmerized. They used those stamps the entire time, and I'm like, you know what, it's not drawing, it's not like air quotes art, but it's, you're working with design. If you are putting a bunch of stamps together, then it is art. You're working with the design element of art. It's very valuable.
You start with bigger, go to smaller to make the scene look. So yeah, that's good.
Yep. And if any parents want to complain, well, I'll refund their money. It's a free class, so you get a 100% money back refund, my friends.
Bia McConney, where did you get the palette that you were using?
This is a Zoltan Szabo palette. It is at Jerry's Artorama. I think it's about $20, and it's got a lid. And so if you need more mixing area, you can actually flip over the lid and use that as well.
Rose 973. What is a good cheap watercolor paint you would recommend for beginners?
I would recommend, there's a couple. I don't know how cheap. The set of this set here is $30. It's 18 colors, really, and small tubes, but a tube lasts you a long time. You could get like the Cotman travel set, which is 12 colors, the little pans, and that's about I think it's like 20 at Jerry's, 20 somewhere around there. And I like that too because it's very reliable. You know, it's made by Winsor Newton. It's their student line. Marie's paints. I think there's also the Soho watercolors. I haven't used those. They're a Jerry's exclusive, but they're really affordable. And I think you get like extras, like an extra set of brushes or something with it. I think Joey, if Joe Maskey is here today, I think he uses those. He might be able to help you out, but I haven't used those yet. But anything I've tried of Soho has been decent. You know, it's a student grade line, I believe. But the nice thing about the student grade line, you don't have to worry about the toxicity because they won't have the toxic products in it.
Oh, look at all that snow coming off the trees. Breeze picked up.
Holy cow, yeah.
Distracted. Kay Rossell, how is gouache different from watercolor?
It's opaque. That's the only difference.
And Latrice Williams, do you ever make mistakes?
All the time. Don't you watch my videos? All the time. That's how you know you're learning. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning.
That's true. Let's see. Now, caught back up.
Gosh, I should be a chef by now that if cooking mistakes were any indication. Should be a.
Well, that's because you don't like cooking.
That's true. I don't like cooking.
So you're not. There's not really a
incentive
reason to do it more often.
Yeah, I'm definitely cook on demand.
Yeah. Tika Carr, Lindsay, for beginners in watercolor, are those starter kits at Michael's a good deal, or should one get things piecemeal and custom their own kit?
Well, I think a kit's a good idea if you're not sure where you want to begin. I have on my website, thefrugalcrafter.wordpress.com, my blog there. If you search watercolor basics, I do have a printable supply list you can print off and take to the store with you. It's like the six basic colors I recommend, plus a couple additional ones, and the brushes that I recommend, and the paper that I recommend, and all that stuff. I would stay there. There's a lot of LA craft stores. There's a lot of really crappy brands, unfortunately, put together in kits, and it would be a bummer to start off with something like that wasn't a decent quality, because you can. I'm all about saving money and finding a bargain, but sometimes those bargains aren't bargains. You're actually paying a lot more. There's a lot more markup on it, but you think you're getting a good deal, but the quality is like children's quality, not even like a college student or high school student quality. So I think I would recommend you're better off to buy fewer paints that are higher quality than a set that gives you a lot more paint if it's low quality. I guess I don't really know what Michaels has for sets. I know they carry the Artist Loft brand. I don't know that. I've never used it, so I can't vouch for it.
Let's see. Joyce Whitebread is requesting a leprechaun video for St. Patrick's Day. So we have a card, St. Patrick's Day card, a leprechaun video.
Like a leprechaun painting tutorial?
Shouldn't say just leprechaun. I say fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Let's see. Liz Ann Arts, what are some things you can blend oil paint with?
You can use linseed oil. That's what I use usually. If I do need anything to blend it with, sometimes you don't. You just use the paint. And so like if you're like just trying to block in a canvas, you don't want to thin it with linseed oil. You want to thin it with like a terpenoid or a turpentine or odorless mineral spirits, because as you work, you need to keep your layers fatter as you go further on oil paint. Otherwise, if you put like a thin down wash on top of like a really thick paint, it'll crack. So you need to make sure that you add oil as you're going on. You can add thinner on the first couple layers, and then you need to add oil so that you don't end up with a unstable painting ground.
Several people, Pandemonium Art Gallery did the Great Flamingo.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so this is how far behind. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Get every question.
Yeah, so search that on YouTube if you're looking for the flamingo tutorial. I'm just going in. I haven't even switched to the smaller brush yet, and I might not. I'm just using my brush at a 90-degree angle for detail and adding little, just little details where I think they need to be. I haven't even really looked at my reference photo in a while either, so yours might vary. Mine certainly varies.
Let's see, we have a suggestion for a painting of a rainbow in green fields or a pot of gold for the St. Patrick's Day idea. Ooh. Sequin shamrocks to go in a Shaker Day card.
Oh, pretty.
Pretty cool. People are agreeing, don't eat your paints.
That's pretty universal recommendation there.
Sar Ahmed. Lindsay, what should I carry in my art kit as I sit and paint in the car while my toddler is at school?
I would do like watercolor pencils, maybe some watercolor postcards or watercolor greeting cards. Maybe like a little Audubon book or something if you need reference photos, reference material. That way you don't have to use up your, data on your phone if you're using that for reference material and paint my photo or something. I would just kind of keep it simple. You might even want to sketch things at home and then just bring watercolor pencils and a water brush or maybe a small little thing of paint. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple. If you make it complicated, you won't use it.
Joyce Whitebread, will the tapestry stamps work for watercolor?
Yeah, you could paint watercolor on the rubber and stamp with it. Totally. That would be really pretty. There's some techniques I've seen like where they have there's vases and baskets and stuff, and then you could stamp on with the watercolor and just drag areas around with your brush to kind of give it a softer focus in places. That'd be really pretty.
Let's see. Meadow Hill Farm CT, I'm assuming that stands for Connecticut. Any advice for painting on small 2x3 paper for greeting cards? Having a hard time with getting them to look good.
Oh, that's really small. Probably use a small brush. I would pick items that you could do kind of big to fill the 2x3 space, like maybe a violet, but the violet is the whole composition. Like blow something up, like maybe it's a dragonfly, or it's something that you can make big enough that you can actually get in there and paint and put detail in instead of trying to like put a whole scene in there. Or maybe do like an abstract landscape or a looser landscape, something that you're not feeling like you have to cram in there. I had that problem when I was painting ornaments this year, trying to cram too much in and couldn't get enough detail that I wanted. And I'm not even a super detailed person, but I was having a hard time with that myself.
Well, like you do too with your paintings that don't come out, you cut them into strips for bookmarks.
Right.
So you could paint a painting like this and then cut them into 2x3 pieces.
Oh, true. That's a great idea.
And then you have the detail and stuff, but and then they would all be a little different.
Oh, that's a great idea. I like that.
Yeah, well, just I have them every once in a while. Let's see. Crafty Life. I'm painting right now, and how can I send you how it turned out?
Oh, send a photo to me on Facebook or
Frugal Crafter.
Yep. Facebook.com/frugalcrafter. You can also grab paint right off the tip of your pencils like that and add that wherever you want. And I think we are just about done here. I'm not going to need to add the white watercolor crayon because I didn't go crazy with my colors on there. Maybe I'll sketch in a few leaves though, if I can find some paper dry enough to do it.
Joyce Whitebread, I suggested leprechauns because I will be doing watercolor cards for friends and family along with the shaker.
Oh.
And Casillas, a teacup and pot of Irish black china. It has sweet green shamrocks winding around it. Maybe some biscuits too.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like I'd like to have some of
I
that
know.
In front of me.
That would be nice. Nice cup of tea before the children come back. Yeah, so what I'm doing here, I decided I wanted some leaves. So this is not the best brush for lifting. If you have something that's a little stiffer, I would recommend that, but this is just what I have on my desk, and I can't fit too much extra stuff on this little table that I use upstairs in my office. So I'm just kind of wiping out. I'm just kind of painting over some of the leaf areas, and then I'm going to blot it out. I need a new paper towel. That one's too wet. And then I can go in with some lighter colors. I like this one. I like this one better than the other one, but I'll have to put them side by side and ask you guys what you think. Okay, so I've lifted out some areas for my leaves, and then I want to make sure I have more paint than water, so I'm blotting my brush off. I'm going to go in with yellow because I can mix in with some of the green that's there, and I know it'll stand out. And I'm using the same yellow the whole time. Sometimes we make paintings more difficult than they need to be. You know, like I did with
that all the time.
Yeah, well, I did that with the other one. I was nervous because I didn't have my thing ready for today's live stream, and then the kids were coming home, and you know, so I was just like, I was forcing it. And I think, especially with watercolor, when you feel that like you're really forcing it, then you need to step away, because it's not gonna end well. I mean, sometimes I have to push through because I'm doing something for a client or on a deadline or whatever, but it's never fun. And if you're not doing it for work, then there's no reason to have it not be fun. I'm adding a little of the sap green fairly straight there, and I'm gonna pull it up into the yellow.
Oh, Mary Wright suggests a Guinness painting for St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh,
that would work.
Yeah, paint on location.
You could do a Guinness bottle. We know how you love to do glass.
I do love to do glass.
You could do a Guinness bottle with a glass with the Guinness in it.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay. And I think that just about wraps it up. I'm not going to add the white watercolor crayon to this, but if you felt like you got a little too dark and you wanted some highlights, you certainly can. Here is the original one that I did beforehand, and it was much darker, a little more chaotic, I think. Let's put them side by side. Maybe I could put them side by side if I do them sideways. What do you think, guys? Which one do you like better? Let me know in the chat. I would love it if before you left you gave us a thumbs up, or if you hated it, you give us a thumbs down. I suppose it's all engagement as far as YouTube's concerned.
That's right. It's all engagement.
Let us know what you think, and say hi in the comments so I can see you were here, because I can't always see those comments. Sometimes I can hop on and see like the last 50 or so, but I don't get to see. I miss the party a little bit when I'm here doing the demo. So let me know what you think of it.
Everyone's loving it.
Oh, good.
Loving it.
If you have any requests for upcoming shows, you can leave those in the comments as well. And I'll definitely consider those when I go to plan next week's show. So we will have a live show next week. The week after is school vacation, so I'm not going to be doing a live show that week. Make sure you come by on Tuesday night if you want to ask Marty Owens, Cinnamon Cooney, or myself any live artist questions, because we will be in the house with my husband too, the golden pipes of my better half.
Smooth golden tones of the rock dog.
That's right. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please give me a thumbs up. If I haven't mentioned it enough, for my effort, thumbs up for effort.
Subscribe,
subscribe, all that jazz.
Questions and comments, we'll get to Lindsay, especially. I don't really get to them.
I'll get to them. I'll check them out.
It's all art questions. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely hang out in the comments for a bit. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.
Bye.